Harry stood by the back door, drinking a cup of coffee, looking out over the window. The hot steam from the coffee misted up the window, and with his hands he wiped away a small spot. The morning was crisp and all lit with silver from where Jack Frost had run across the ground. As he cleared a space in the window, he noticed in the corner a load of brambles, and a familiar shape came back. "I think that's Dad's old shed," he said. Harry was at the thatched cottage where his mum and Dad lived because he was helping them clean up, ready for a new start somewhere else. The back door opened with a creak, and he stepped out into the cold morning, his breath, like his coffee steam, filling the space in front of him. As he walked towards the shape, his feet made a crunching sound on the silvery ground. He passed the old washing line that he had used for tents and shadow puppeting. He found the stepping stones that his dad had cut into the lawn so he could mow without having to stop for a path. As he drew near, the brambles revealed the fading paint of the shed. Over the years, the many colours it had been: red, blue, yellow. His mum and dad were kind of bohemian in a way. They did jobs that other people never did. His dad was a carpenter. He used to make chairs, tables, staircases, and sometimes he had even more exotic projects. His mum painted pictures, and sometimes she sculpted. She was always lively and expressive, wearing bright colours, where his dad was more serious, thoughtful. The brambles were thick all over the building, and Harry wondered how he might be able to get in, or even if he could move the door without breaking it. He went to the garage and found a pair of loppers. "That'll do the trick," he thought. As he wandered back round to the back of the garden, the old dog, a Nook, yawned and stretched. She looked up at Harry and thought to herself, "We might be having an adventure here." So she stood up and slowly walked by his side. Harry slowly cut away the brambles, bit by bit. They certainly were really thick in places. He couldn't remember when his dad last used the shed. Eventually the last bramble was cleared from the doorway. "Phew, that was tough," thought Harry. He put all the brambles in a heap to one side and looked at a Nook and said, "Do you know what, later, old girl, we might have a bonfire. How do you feel about that?" She wagged her thick stumpy tail. She had a beautiful coat and beautiful tail. She was half husky and half Labrador, all black, but with that lovely husky coat. "Oh, you like this kind of weather, don't you, Nook?" said Harry as he patted her soft head, her big brown eyes looking at him. She always fared better in the winter than the summer. Harry reached for the doorknob. "Wow, there's no lock on the door, old girl. Dad must have just pushed it shut at the end of a working day." Eventually Harry managed to pull the door open. It was dark inside because it was still morning, and the sun hadn't reached through the windows, but the windows were old and grey and filled with cobwebs that looked like a thick net curtain of different patterns. Looking around quickly by the door, Harry found the light bulb. "Oh, I wonder if this works." he gingerly tested the switch. Click, and suddenly the whole barn was illuminated. "Well, I never," said Harry to a nook. "Look at all these tools. Look at all these machines." Harry went to the first one and ran his finger along the ledge. A bandsaw. He remembered watching his dad using the bandsaw and his dad telling him how good it was for intricate pieces, but to be very, very careful and not to pull the wood out too quickly or you snap the blade, and they were fiddly to replace at the best of times, said his dad. He could still hear it whirling in his head. As his eyes became more accustomed to the light, he could pick out other strange shapes. The bench that his dad had spent many hours sitting on, and sometimes when his mum had made a nice soup or a hot mug of tea or chocolate with a little bit of cinnamon on, he or his sisters would go down and give it to his dad. "Here, Dad, Mum's just bought you something to eat, made you something to eat," or "Here's a hot cup of tea." Or if it was late at night, call through the dark to the glowing window from the shed, "Dad, Dad, your tea's ready." And he'd remember his dad slowly locking up the shed, and he was wondering what adventures his dad had made inside. Sometimes Harry wished he was small again in times like this, where he could just sit and watch his dad. The bench had all kinds of strange tools on it, and then he saw the chisels that his dad loved best of all. "You see these chisels, Harry?" said his dad. "Ah, they're the tools of the trade, you know. Always use a whetstone to keep your chisels nice and sharp," said his dad. Harry picked up one of the chisels and held it in his hand. He liked the weight of it. "Wow." His dad's voice popped in his head as if he was stood beside his shoulder. "Do you know, if you keep them chisels sharp," he said, "they go through pine and lime wood like butter like butter on melted toast. Always keep them sharp. If you look after your tools, Harry, the tools will look after you." He looked round to see if his dad was stood there, but he wasn't. Harry sighed and replaced the chisel. He saw pots of varnish and remembered how his dad had taught him how to French polish, one of the most tedious and longest jobs that a carpenter got. But when he looked through the layers, it was like looking through a pond to the very depth. The polish brought out all the grain, and some of the grain on the wood was beautiful, like mahogany. But Harry and Dad's favourite was burr walnut. Put a varnish on that, and it was one of the most magical things that you could see. Once his dad had a piece of ebony, a dark, dark piece of ebony, and he varnished it, and the dark lines came and showed different depths. Well, there was other woods as well, woods that gave like a tiger skin effect, or the dark shapes of the lines and the soft amber glow of the soft wood underneath. His dad had taught him that if you smelt wood, you could identify what it was. So if ever a piece went on the floor and you picked it up and smelt it, you knew what it was. Harry turned round and rested his bum against the bench and still looked round at the shelves with the nuts, the bolts and the screws were. He saw the old vice where his dad would make a dove joint or a finger joint. He told him once that if you used English oak and you cut the hole and he wanted to join it together, you could use another piece of wood, like dowling, to put it together, and that would make a stronger joint than any nail or screw. He remembered his dad mixing up PVA glue with sawdust to fill up any imperfections in the wood. Nowadays everybody wanted something distressed, but his dad liked a nice finish. Oh, those were the days, thought Harry, when things were so different, when everybody spent hours doing their craft. As Harry looked around, again his eyes becoming more accustomed, he ventured further into the shed. There was the sander. If his dad did anything square, him and his sisters would get money if they was sand, using the sander, only under supervision, mind you. Or sometimes his dad would show him the different gradients of sandpaper, going from the very, very coarse to the almost smooth, fine sandpaper. His dad showed him that if you shut your eyes and run your hand along the wood, you could feel the imperfections, so you won't keep sand in the same place. Suddenly, as the door had opened, the wind slowly blew a breeze through the shed, and Harry could then smell all the different things. The wood, the varnishing, the paint. It's funny how smells and objects bring back memories, said Harry to a Nook, who was busy in her own element, sniffing everything. She looked up at him with a cobweb on her nose. Harry laughed and wiped it off. In the corner was a big sheet. Harry wondered what it was, and picking his way through the debris of the shed, he went over to it. It was a great big horse blanket. Harry's mum and dad always kept horses. He remembered the very first one, Storm, a dark moor that his mum had rescued. She'd broken him in, and he'd become a family pet. They'd all scramble all over him, and at Christmas they would decorate his head collar so when he went out into the field, he looked all bright and Christmassy. They had other horses too over the years. Blaze would come to retire with them. Then there was Girlie. She was a Connemara cross, all big and round, soft and gentle, who would nuzzle you with her nose. There was Sharma, a thoroughbred, beautiful, beautiful bay coat, and in the summer the dapples of his good health would shine through his coat and his glossy black mane. They had their own ponies too. His sister Chloe went down to a farm one day and saw a young horse that had given birth to a foal. Her name was Cammy. He asked the young lad that owned Cammy that if he saved all his paper round money, could he buy Cammy? So they struck up a deal, and Chloe had Cammy delivered to their field. Cammy had a little foal called Sherry, which was also sold to Harry this time. Harry remembers Cammy because her ears had notches in them because she'd been a little Welsh mountain, and when she'd grown wild up on the hills, the farmers every year cut notches out of them or branded them to say who they belonged to. There was Deefa, another bay horse, Molly, a little bay Darkmoor. There was Bough, a beautiful black Arab. Ah, he remembered those days really, really well. He moved the horse blanket off the object. Well, I never, said Harry. There's Prince. Prince was the last animal that his dad had ever carved. It was a carnival horse. His dad had spent months and months looking at pictures, drawing it, asking his mum to draw out different sketches for different ideas. It wasn't so easy for them in them days. They never had the internet like they did today. His dad couldn't Google images. His mum had to go out into the field and wait for the horses to be let out of the stable so she could watch them frolic and leap and gallop across the fields like lipizzaners in Venice, posing every move. Their mum would quickly sketch down the way the mane went, the expressions on their eyes, the way their legs pranced and danced like ballet dancers in the fury of the Nutcracker. Oh, her sketches were so wonderful, they came to life when he looked at them. Well, I never, Prince. Fancy you being here. I wonder how you got here. I remember when Dad called us all into the shed. Come on, you lot, it's finished. We all ran excitedly into the barn to see this brown figure of a horse. His mum lovingly put her fingers all over the details, for she was a sculptor and her hands were her eyes. Wow, this is a lovely carving. I think it's one of your best. His dad looked at her and blushed. Have you thought about any colours? No, love, I haven't. I thought I'd leave it to you. Wow, it's going to have to be something decadent and luxurious. Because he's going to be the last horse on the merry-go-round. Leave it with me. His mum was so excited that she rushed to her art books and started looking at Leonardo da Vinci's sketches of the proud necks, the pricked ears, the eyes of expression. His mum had a favourite sculpture. They were of the horses in Vienna looking out over the rivers. Venice. That's right, not Vienna. Venice. He couldn't remember the story that his mum had told him. While he was thinking, he carefully lifted Prince up and placed him on the bench and dusted him off a little bit. He had faded now with age. His mum had given him a luxurious, luminous blue mane, and over the edges and the sharp angles she'd rubbed gold leaf to make it look like it was flowing and catching the sun. She had done him in this beautiful stone white. She had gently done his muzzle in grey, the tips of his ears in grey, his knees and his socks in grey. She'd given him beautiful gold leaf hooves, flared nostrils, and the gentlest brown eyes you could ever see. He had an expression on his face of adventure and going places. His dad had carved out a lovely harness in magenta pink, and his mum had painted it with gold leaf and white highlights too. Harry slowly ran his fingers over the harness. He wondered what adventures the children had had on him as they sat on the carousel as it went round and round. Harry remembered the first time he'd gone on a carousel. It was much higher than he thought, and as the horses rose and rose and rose, he thought he was going to touch the sky, and then gently they dropped to the ground, and again they rose and rose, a feeling of long striding gallops. He used to think that he was the thief of Baghdad, riding across on his Arab, across the wastelands with gold and genies and all kinds of things. Harry stood for a moment remembering. His dad had taken the horse into the kitchen. His mum didn't have a very big studio for this, but she wanted to paint him in the kitchen, so while she was doing things, she could think about the colours and shading. His dad put an old oilcloth down and placed him on top. Over the days that followed, the horse slowly came alive. First of all the white went on, and then the grey, and then she's painted the bridle, the saddle, the breastplate, the tail guard. Her favourite bit was painting the mane and the tail. They were intricate, deep crevices, flowing. They gave the horse the extra little bit of magic of movement. The blue she chose was beautiful, had specks of gold in it and were illuminated. She always left the gold leaf till last. She always used to moan about it because it used to stick to her fingers and she had to frequently wash her hands. Eventually it was all applied and she gently put a cloth over the last little bits to wipe the little remnants away. Oh, how he did look lovely. His dad walked into the kitchen to have his tea. "Well, you've made a fine job of that horse, that's all I can say." "Do you think so?" she said. "Do you think he cuts the mustard?" "By Jove, he does. I think he does. I think he's going to be one of the nicest horses on the carousel." "I hope so," she said. "I want to give children adventures when they ride on it." "Yeah. On these horses you could ride two people, one in front of the other." His dad said, looking at his mum, "And young lovers sitting on there dreaming of their dreams as they sail into the sunset." His mum looked wistfully at the horse, as if suddenly she was somewhere else as well, galloping across the plains on one of her horses. She said. "That's a nice thought." "Yes, it is," said his dad, "and you made it possible." Harry'd gone to bed with his sisters, and his mum had told him the last part. Her and his dad had sat in the kitchen by the open fire they had. They watched the flames tickle and dance and reflect across the horse's body. "Do you remember that film we watched when that cowboy needed a horse and there was all those beautiful horses in the corral?" "Oh yes," said his mum, "I remember that." "Yeah," said his dad. "And do you remember he's being chased by somebody, so he went to the cowboy in charge of the ranch and asked if he could have a horse? And the guy said, 'Yes, I've got the perfect one for you.' So they went back to the corral and they looked at all the warblers and thoroughbreds and this cranky old horse in the corner, and the farmer said, 'You can have that one in the corner.' And the cowboy looking really disappointed because it really never had the speed or the stockiness of the other ones. 'That's the one you need,' said the rancher. 'But he's not going to get me very far. You'd be surprised.' And it turned out that the horse could climb, and he'd climbed over this high mountain to get away from the people, and the people's horses couldn't do it. Yeah, I remember," she said. That was a good old film, wasn't it? Yeah. Later that evening, they were both going off to bed. The fire embers were glowing. There was a softness in the air. His dad turned the light out and looked back. The fire had caught all the gold on the horse's mane and hooves and harness. Look at him now." "Wow," she said, "he looks magical." "Yes, he does," he goes. "He's a prince of a horse." "Yeah. Shall we call him Prince?" "Yeah, I think that's a really good name." And they both stood in for a while and watched the lights flickering over the horse. It almost like as soon as he was given a name, he'd come to life. Prince. They closed the kitchen door a little bit and went to bed. Harry and his sisters the next morning came down. "Oh, wow, he's gorgeous." "Don't go too near him," said their mum. "He's still quite wet and we have to wait for the gold leaf to set so then your dad can varnish him and he can be on his way." A couple of days later, His dad unloaded the van, got some big blankets and wrapped Prince up. "Where's he going, Dad?" said Brina, looking sad. Brina was the youngest of the sisters. She wanted to be a nurse. Harry laughs because now she works in Salford General. She loves her job. She's got golden hair, just like the gold leaf that his mum put on the horse. His other sister had become a jockey. She'd been out one day riding with their mum, and something in the hedge had made Sharma shy, and he'd been a thoroughbred and legged it at 90 miles an hour. All Mum could say was, "Sit on your bottom! Sit on your bottom! That'll stop him!" Eventually she caught them up, panicking like mad, thinking all kinds of things. But there was Sharma munching the grass, with Chloe with a smile from ear to ear. "That was so smooth, Mum," she goes. "I didn't feel any of the ruts, no trips, nothing like we normally find down the bridle path." "I'm just glad you're okay," she said, and Sharma had the good sense to stop. "Do you know what I want to be when I leave school, Mum?" "No, I'd like to be a jockey." So off they went, and she got into jockey school at Newmarket. Harry had taken a different course. He'd become a film maker, going all over the world making films. Prince had been taken that morning and had gone on a long journey to the carousel. His dad had unloaded him. "Wow, that's got to be the best one you've done yet," said the man, looking at Prince all over. "Well, I can't put it all down to me," said Harry's dad. Bea helped as well. "Oh, how is she?" asked the man. "She's fine, doing another painting or an illustration. I lose track of them. I just come downstairs one day and there's either a piece of sculpture looking at me, a big brown bear in a painting," he said, "and one of her papier-mâché hairs. I never know," she goes. "She always has a narrative to go with every one of them." The man laughed. He was a chubby man and his shoulders went up and down. The car came down empty-handed and they all sat down in the evening for their dinner. "Do you know, that horse has only been there a couple of days and I miss him already," said his dad, stopping and eating his dinner and looking across at the space that Prince had been. "Yes," said his mum. "I like to sit in the chair while I'm having a cup of tea and thinking up all kinds of stories that could go with Prince and all the adventures we'll never see him have. Ah, those kids will love him. He'll be well loved," said his dad. And as the days went on, Prince was forgotten about. So why was Prince here? Harry would ask his dad when he'd seen him. "Do you know what, Prince?" said Harry. "I'm going to take you home with me. I'm going to get Dad to make some rockers and I'll make you into a rocking horse for the kids. They'll love it." "That's what I'll do." Harry took Prince out and put him in the back of the car. A couple of months later, Prince arrived at their house with his new rockers, all lovely blue. His dad had managed to find the colour of the paint that his mum had used. "Do you know, these are one of the hardest things to do," said his dad. "What's that?" asked Harry. "Making the rockers, you know. They've got to be precise, you know. There's a lot of skill in the rockers, you know. I've made them quite fancy as well." "Ah, it's good to see that he's back in action. The kids that sit on him will all have new adventures." "Yeah," said Harry. Later that day, his kids came home. "Wow, Dad, is that the horse you were telling us about that was found in Grandad's shed?" "Yeah," said his dad, said Harry. "Yeah, Grandad's fixed a rocker on it. He's with us forever now. So you can climb on board and have adventures of your own." Later that evening, they could hear the kids talking. patting the horse. His young daughter Debbie pretending to feed him. "I love you, Prince," said Debbie. "Oh," he goes, "she's going to never part with that, is she?" "No," said his wife, "she isn't." I'm so glad Dad could restore him. Debbie and Harry stood by their kitchen door. They too had a fire, a wood burner in their kitchen, and once again Prince was there being lit up by the fire, a little sparkle in his eye. "You won't be going round and round anymore, my lad," said Harry. "No, you'll be going backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. I do think you're one of the best horses that my dad had ever made," he said as he clicked the door shut.